as well, Marie?
Certainly.
How many did that start you up this morning? And it was funny, Michael, you were talking about music. And I know. Exactly
It's a
what
good
I'm going
one.
to do.
It's a good one, John. I was actually singing that during the week. Every now and then, a song comes into my head. If somebody says something or something happens, I actually think of a tune and I start singing it, for better or for worse, with people maybe around me. And a machine broke down and we got it going again. And at that point, I thought of starting me up. So I started singing that.
Well, you know, it is amazing.
You know, with my own little, obviously, my own light twist to it.
Well, that's brilliant,
Yeah, it's a good one.
It is amazing the way music does change our mood, and it is great for your mental health. But I'm going to come back on that. But I'm interested, really, what starts you up, and that's my first question. What is it that starts you up in the morning and gets you moving about? I want you to think of this morning. I'm going to be a bit like a steward on an airplane, giving you that pre-flight talk before we take off. And I don't know where we're going, what destination we're all looking forward to going. Anybody any ideas where we're going to go today? Anybody fancy going in? Poland. Okay, we're off to Poland. Okay, that's where we're going to go. We're going to go to Poland. And I want you to think, as we're on that pre-flight discussion, and as I'm talking to you, I'm telling you about that. In the event that the plane should get into any trouble whatsoever, the masks will fall from above, and that you should place this mask over your own face before you place it over the person that's sitting next to you. And that's the analogy I'd like to use with regards to mental health. It really is about helping yourself first of all, before you can help anybody else. I recently heard a friend talk, and he said to me, you know, we all, sooner or later, we're all going to die. And that's a reality that faces us all. And as a consequence of that, we have one or two decisions to make in our life. Because we know the ending, we can elect to say, well, our time on earth doesn't really matter, because we all know the inevitability of what's going to happen. So we can then decide to do nothing with this gift that we have. Conversely, you could look at it and say to yourself, well, whatever my short time I have on this planet, I want to make the very best of this time and put forward the best that I have on any given day and make the best out of my life. It's a choice that you are all going to have to make, and something that we're going to have to face. But I don't want you to beat yourself up about it, because some of you may have already started on that journey. Others of you may have started and stopped. And again, some of you may have started, stopped, and then commenced with looking at your life and trying to find purpose in what you're doing. It doesn't really matter. It's your journey, and it's the way that you decide, by taking control over your life, what it is that you want from it. I'm reminded about that famous book or lyric from one of my favorite songs, "No One Here Gets Out Alive." And as you know, Frankie, that's a Doors song from 5 to 1. No one here gets out alive. And it's so true. It really is so true. So today, I'm talking to you about mental health, and I'm bringing up death. And I make no apology for doing that to you, because we all have a spiritual journey whilst we're here. Every one of us. We will look at our life and we'll ask ourselves what this life truly means. It will come to us eventually, and we will ask, what is the purpose that we're going to find in this life? Some religious leaders I've heard and spiritual leaders will tell you your gift from God is life itself. But your gift to God from you is finding purpose in your life. What I'd like to do is just define for you what the World Health Organization says about mental health. So I'm going to just read from you what I have here. They define mental health as mental health is not just the absence of mental disorder. It is defined as the state of well-being in every individual so they can realize his or her own potential. They can cope with the normal stresses of life. They can work productively, fruitfully, and are able to make a contribution to their community. I am so pleased that the World Health Organization have opened that piece up by saying mental health is not the absence of mental disorder. And that's very, very important for us. Removing mental disorder is not a destination. It is a journey that we all have to undertake. And it's our ability to be able to control that mental health, or to have mechanisms of control that we can employ that will help us move forward in our life. You know, we all know energy givers, people that you talk to that will give you energy. And when you speak to them, you feel as if you could possibly climb Mount Everest, even without an oxygen mask. You can really take on the world, an energy giver. And then another time, we have energy sappers. And they're the people that take energy from you. You finish the conversation, and somehow at the end of that conversation, you feel diminished, smaller than where you are before you commenced that particular conversation. They have an ability to take the smallest little chink that you have, enlarge it, and it magnifies in size, and it becomes something that you find very, very difficult to cope with. We all know people like that in our lives. C.S. Lewis, the famous author, says, you cannot go back and change your beginning. You can start where you are today, and you can change the ending. And that's where I would like to focus on today, about how you are going to change the ending, your journey. By the end of today's presentation, or my speaking to you now, I want to ensure you go away with the following. I want you to recognize the triggers of disorder that occur in your life and disturb your mental health. I want you to understand how you respond to those triggers. And thirdly, I'm going to make you such a good offer about reprogramming your mind that creates routines that serve you, that you will want to take this offer up. Our minds need focus. We all need something that grabs our attention. What grabs my attention, my focus, is going to be completely different to what grabs your attention. But isn't that what makes life very, very interesting? Especially when we speak to somebody who has an interesting story in which to tell us. Maria, is there any way can we?
Yes, sure. I'm just doing that. Wait a minute, John, because you have to. Yeah, carry on.
Okay.
And I am muting everyone. Yes. One more, and that's it. Oh, you need to unmute yourself, John, because for some reason you got muted. Yeah.
When we talk to someone that's interesting, we love listening to their story about their journey that they want to share with us. And we find when we listen to someone that's found purpose within their lives, we find a story that they tell us captivating. We want to listen to what they have to tell us about their journey and the way they've overcome their particular story. And you will have a journey as well. And you too will have a story. It's about the bits that you find to fill in between that story. And what we need to be able to fill those bits in is focus, things that grab your attention. How many of us have looked forward to a day off of work when we kick back, throw our feet up and say, oh, I'm looking forward to this day. I can just watch the TV all day, do absolutely nothing at all, having nothing to focus our attention. And ironically, that is the very, very day. It's the very day when we think we're going to have nothing to do, nothing to focus on the mind, that little chimp starts to gnaw away with you, starts to say things, brings things up to you to make you worry. It brings the smallest little thing up and it magnifies it so much bigger, and it creates something in your mind. And all of a sudden, this day off that you were hopefully going to enjoy becomes a day filled with anxiety and stress. Some of you listening to this may recall such an event, maybe recently within your life, when you've looked forward to a day, thought you want to do nothing, have nothing to focus the mind, and then all you've done is worried about a certain situation. It might be a personal situation, it may be a work situation, it could be any situation, but you're imagining this outcome sometime in the future. The fact of the matter, to remove mental disorder from your life is that we need focus. And that even includes on your days off, when you're kicking back and doing nothing. That focus does not need to be arduous, doesn't need to be taxing, doesn't need to be physical, but it does need to be enjoyable. Something that gives you complete focus and attention. It could be reading, it could be swimming, it could be socializing with your friends, but it's something that when your mind has something to focus on, your mind doesn't take you to those dark places. You know, the mind is a wonderful thing, but it's also an instrument that can work against you if you don't bring conscious control over it. And of course, the same applies to your working life, because this talk is about mental health in the workplace. Your work needs to be something that grabs your focus, that grabs your attention, and supports your mental health. It needs to be something that you find rewarding. It needs to be something in which you find an intrinsic value. This is known as an autotelic experience. I'll repeat that, an autotelic experience. When you do something just for the enjoyment of doing something within itself. Once you can find that thing that you can do just for the purpose of doing itself, you will find rich rewards. In telling you this, I'm mindful of the myth of King Midas. King Midas, as you will recall, decided to make a pact with his gods because he wanted to be the most powerful and the most richest man in the land. And he said, and the agreement he had with his gods was that anything he touched would turn to gold. And it sounded absolutely ideal life. He was going to get his power, he was going to get his rich. His whole life was going to be surrounded by wealth and gold. The problem was, before he could digest his food, the food turned to gold, and he dies of starvation of all this gold around us. This fable holds true today, as it did all those thousands of years ago. And what I'm trying to say is that the suburban house, the four-wheel drive, the luxury holiday, the cruise, is not going to bring you peace within your life. You're not going to suddenly find order in your life because you're reaching out for these things. So how do we open the door to remove disorder from our lives. When I have spoken to you and I've said to you that focus is essential to stop the mind from ruminating and to find something that serves you as an individual, that you feel an intrinsic reward from. And then the next step is to find mastery in what you do by being the very best that you can be on any particular day. Mastery is something you experience when you become so practiced at it that you don't have to consciously think about it. How does that work? I hear you ask. Well, how many times has somebody said to you, can I have that mobile unit, that mobile number? You know so-and-so's number. And for the life of you thinking about it, and the number just won't come to you. It won't come to you, that particular number. But put the mobile phone in your hand and your thumb just clicks the number away. That's because you have a routine there. That's because you become so practiced at what you've done that the body is able to instruct the mind, because you've got a routine that works for you in the back of your mind. And that way you're able to call on the numbers by taking physical action other than trying to consciously think about something. So consciously thinking, when we're put on the spot, can fail us. And by taking action and doing things, we can create routines in our minds that can serve us. This is known as explicit memory, which interacts then with your muscle memory. You all know about muscle memory. Your body just reacts in a certain way. Explicit memory says the ability to store information and retrieve information when you need it. And that only comes from something that you practice and practice and practice. So you become good at something. Some of you here may be too young, but some of you may remember a 1980s TV show called The A-Team. And the leader, Hannibal, used to have this fantastic saying. He used to say, I love it when a plan comes together. I love it when a plan comes together. And what that is all about is control over our conscious thinking. That's what it really means. And we get a mental reward or feeling good factor about having something that we feel when we're in control of the environment that's around us. And that only comes from something that you are well versed and well practiced in. So your subconscious mind responds more effectively under pressure, maximizing your performance rather than when you need to consciously think. Once you have developed an evolved system of feedback with intrinsic rewards, then you're in a position where you can elevate your fun and joy in your life and the mastery in your life, which leads to things such as the hierarchy we've known within Maslow's hierarchy needs, when we're talking about someone that's fulfilling their purpose with the ego esteem needs at the very top. So how do you thrive in this environment? You need to reprogram your subconscious mind with new routines that support your mental health, not just work, but in your life. At the start of this presentation today, I opened up with Start Me Up, which is a Rolling Stones number. And I wonder how many of you listening to that routine thought, oh, I really like this. I wouldn't mind singing a little bit to this, or conversely, I wouldn't even mind getting up and having a bit of a dance. But the problem is we have subconscious routines already within our mind that are playing. And you may be at a family party, and what normally happens, you hear a song that you really want, instantly you think, I'm going to get up within the first second. But 3 or 4 seconds later, you suddenly realize, oh God, somebody may see me making a fool of myself, dancing on that dancing floor, and I don't want to be that person. That's a routine that's not serving you, that's playing within your mind. And it's limiting your belief and the joy that you could experience in your life. These routines these automatic routines play in our lives every day. We go to work the same way. We collect the same mode of transport. We often have the same breakfast. We'll have a routine of maybe waking up, coffee, then shower, or whatever it is. We play the routine. The problem is we keep to that routine because many of us don't know what it takes or how to change a routine in your mind so you can become a person that can change the way they think and the way that they deal with their problems. The question is how do you unlearn the learning? And that's a big thing, because every day we follow these routines, we do the same thing automatically all the time. How do we change our routines? Well, you'll be glad to learn that your mind is not hardwired. That means you can be trained to change the routines within your mind. It's for this reason that I created a program called the Flow Experience that I delivered for the British Army. And that program was all about changing routines, so how to unlearn, to change the routines in your subconscious mind so you saw small improvements in your everyday life, moving you further and further towards mastery, and therefore seeking that autotelic experience that I was talking about earlier. Now, rather than me explain to you what happened on the day, I'm going to put within the link here, within the next minutes or so, a link to my website page that shows you and explains to you the experience and the feedback that I received from doing this particular workshop. Anyway, my workshop and online learning uses the body to train the mind so you can respond without consciously thinking. In my workshop, you're taught the method of learning so you can use it and apply to any activity, work, social life you undertake by making those small improvements that I was talking about. It's these very improvements that you experience that bring value and true meaning to what it is that you do daily. And it's finding that intrinsic value. That's the important thing that will move you on. Either way, finding flow will bring you well-being and mental health. If you're interested in learning more with regards to an autotelic experience, how to rerun or reprogram your mind from subconscious routines and explore routines that are going to save you in life, then please contact me, and I'm willing, if I've got an email within the next 24 hours, to produce something at 50% off. So normally I retail at $299 per person, and I'll be doing that today at £149, providing I've received an email within the next 24 minutes. So that's just 24 minutes, the next 24 hours. That concludes my presentation this morning, Marie. So thank you very much for your time and give me the opportunity to put this forward today.
Thank you so much, John. It was brilliant presentation. And please remember, John will put that in the chat. He's offering 50% of his program. Thank you so much. So let's move to our next speaker, a person who has gone through a huge number of traumatic events and been able to bring himself out. And today he is a thought leader, a coach, mentor, and a person who transformed the lives of youth. Frankie Kington, over to you, please.
Hello, guys. Good afternoon. Well, good morning, just for saying good afternoon. Good morning, it's still morning. Thank you for being here, guys. It's nice to see you all. Thanks for tuning in, listening to these great speakers. Thank you, John, for an amazing presentation. I thought it was very invaluable, very worthwhile listening to. Thanks for that. I'll take a lot of that on board, what you said. And I'd just like to thank you all for being here this morning. Really important topic, which Maria, the lovely Maria Kompanowski, has come up with, which I think is really, really important, mental health. And basically, I may just relate on my experience of mental health, then how I've kind of like used it to transform it in the workplace and in my business, in my businesses, and spotting the signs of mental health. And maybe can ask you a question, guys. Do a little bit of I won't say an experiment. I'm going to ask you a question to see if you're on the right tracks with mental health and how you kind of cope with mental health. And what have you transformed with mental health in your lives? So I'll start off with the lovely Maria. Maria, first of all, what I'll do, guys, I will actually read out mental health, what it actually means. We've got an idea of what mental health actually means. Yeah. A person's condition with regards to their psychological and emotional well-being. So I'll start off with Maria. Maria, can you give me, in your life, a sign of when you was really suffering with mental health? How did you overcome that? How did you overcome it? What was the challenges for you?
Well, I've had two situations, but the one that really has transformed me was back in August 1999, when I was very much depressed and decided to commit suicide. And one afternoon, I was sitting at home all alone, contemplating how to do it, whether I should take tablets or whether I should hang myself. And all of a sudden, I felt a huge kick under my chair, so huge that I jumped up and went to the nearest college and signed myself up to an access course to university. And 4 years later, I graduated.
Amazing, Maria. That transformed your mental health.
Yeah, that was I am calling it a kick from above.
Amazing, Maria. Thank you so much. I've written that down as well, so I'm taking notes, guys. Thank you so much for that, Maria. Amazing, powerful. Thank you so much. John, the lovely John. Hello, my good friend.
Yeah, great question. Like everyone, I suffer with mental health. I think we all do, to a degree. What I try and do is use a degree of control. So meditation forms a big part of my life. So if I feel a disorder within my life, I make sure I put time for meditation. Affirmations for confidence, a big support. But, and essentially what I was talking about before, some people, I mean, obviously I know I do my sport for kickboxing, and some people are, for me, it was never about, I think I did reasonably well, but for me, it wasn't about beating somebody within the ring. What it was about control over my own body. And I get an awful lot of what I was called that autotelic experience about the feeling of doing something that I can do, but I can do it with confidence, and I believe I can do it well. And for me in that life, that's been a great learning experience. So everything that I've employed in that life is I've tried to do it to my best ability.
Thank you so much, John. That was great. Thanks for being honest as well. Really important. Hello, Michael, my good friend. How are you? Great to see you, pal. Go on, Michael. How have you overcome a challenge with mental health, my friend?
Hiya, Frankie. Yeah, I'm good, mate. Yeah, you all right?
I'm absolutely fine, Michael. Yes, I'm fine.
Cool,
Absolutely
cool.
fine.
Nice to see you again. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you as well.
Yeah, look, I mean, there'd be quite a few examples for me of mental health challenges over the years. Like John's just said, it's a constant thing. It does not have to be anything sort of like a huge event as such. But I suppose for me, I'd go back to probably just most recently, the last sort of three or 4 years have changed a lot for me in my attitude, and loads of things John touched on actually I related to very, very much. And things like your self-belief, your self-esteem for sure. I mean, your thoughts create your actions really. So what you believe in basically ends up deciding on your actions. Your actions decide your outcomes, your goals. John also mentioned, which again, I completely ticks the boxes for me, your need for happiness and inner peace. And I sort of set that as my goal, really, but not in a sort of target type way that you might do with the business. Like I used to have business targets, but more that word John used, autotelic. I've never heard of that one before. I'm not sure that's one is that translatable. I don't know. It's a bit weird, but basically that's sort of talking back to yourself. Yeah, if I'm getting that right. So if you've got positive thoughts and positive energy talking back to yourself, and you're telling yourself, you're doing well here, mate. You're doing a good job. You're doing a good job. Yep. Cool. Well done. I'm loving that. So gratitude is something that I find is really the basis of what I'm doing now. And the nice thing about it is I'm actually doing it almost as a habit now. Again, something John mentions, the habits. I think John framed that in a negative way, in the sense that you get into a routine that maybe holds you in a place where you're not sort of experiencing new things and developing yourself. But equally, your habits can be a positive thing, in the sense that the example that I'm using, I'm kind of almost automatically now, I'm looking at things, really, really tiny things, and I'm thinking, bloody hell, sorry, are we allowed to swear or not?
It's okay, that's fine, Michael, that's absolutely fine.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, that's lucky.
Not massive swearing.
That's important for my mental health. The thing is, I look at things now, little things, tiny little things, and I just think, oh my God, that is beautiful. And that, that is just so wonderful to appreciate that and show gratitude for that. And that, I don't know, it may sound farcical, but it doesn't to me. I think it's the right thing to do, because it gives me a boost. It makes me feel positive. And it makes me smile, and I can pass that energy on to others. Frankly, I think everyone should be appreciating that. I mean, tiny little things that you just take for granted. I used to take for granted in my old life, sort of post 4 years ago, as an example. And really just wouldn't even notice them. You know, raindrops on the trees, on the leaves of the trees. Swimming in the sea this morning, I can hear birds that live on the land singing their song in one ear, and I can hear the seabirds floating around me singing their song in my other ear. And I just think, whoa, this is amazing, you know? And I'm floating in the sea, under the sky, being carried by the current, just feeling how so grateful for being part of this amazing universe and being able to play my part. It's just a wonderful thing. So gratitude, really, Frankie, in a nutshell.
No, that's great. Thanks, Michael. I was blown away by that. I took some good notes there. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks,
Stuart.
my friend. Thanks.
No, you're welcome. Stuart, please.
Well, how could I possibly follow that? Thanks, Michael.
No worries, my friend. Honestly, this is just a wonderful thing that's happened to me.
You've raised the bar, mate. You've raised the bar. Brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, in terms of my life experience, Frankie, I wouldn't say, you know, I had a particular moment where I sort of decided I was going to do something drastic. I mean, I did have a serious back problem about 10 years ago, probably longer now. I had a prolapse disc in my back, and, you know, up until then I was quite involved in a lot of sport. I was very active in what I did. And then it just overnight, it sort of debilitated me. And my life started to implode, if you like, because I couldn't do what I normally did. You know, one way of controlling stress for me was, you know, sport and physical activity. I couldn't do that. So things in work, you know, in my life, sort of pressures began to grow. put weight on and things. So I was on a bit of a downward spiral. And then I then got introduced to yoga, and I started yoga mainly as a form of rehabilitation for my physical health or my physical condition. And I did that over a number of years, and I still do yoga. I do it every day now. But that sort of led me on to other things in my life. I mean, John has mentioned it in terms of affirmations. I do affirmations now. I've recently started meditation as well. Now, the point I want to make is, previously in my life, I would do things to maybe try and fix a problem. If something happened, I would do something to try and counter-react it, to try and fix it. Well, whereas what I try to do in my life now, it's like a lifestyle approach to it. It's like the prevention is better than the cure, so to speak.
Great.
And I try to do things in my life every day that helps to keep me on an even keel. Now there will be times when I do have moments, but they are becoming less now, I would say, than in the past. So for me, it's a lifestyle change that I've tried to introduce. Yeah.
Thanks, Stuart. Thank you so much, Stuart.
Thanks.
Great. Pete, please.
Hello. I really enjoyed John's talk. And actually, the end of his talk, he said, we're changing things. And it's amazing. Every day I do something different. I walk a different place. I think different. I change the meals and menus every day. I do things differently every day. I'm doing that. It's an amazing job. I thought that's incredible. And I'm really pleased doing that. And yes, I write every morning, like I got a gratitude book, a diary, where I write every morning what I'm grateful for, or put affirmations in recently as well. And so I'm really excited. I'm really excited to be part of this here this morning, because I know success is not only achieving things, success is being what I am. And I know my purpose of life is to share with people what I believe, to help people in so many different ways.
Thank you, Pete. That was amazing. Thank you, Pete. Thank you so much. Excellent. Lisa?
Hi, thank you, Frankie. I just wanted to share that, yes, obviously mental health is so important, and I'm so pleased to be here listening to this today. And John, inspirational, everything everybody has said. I think it's interesting because it's affected me perhaps in a different way in my life, because some people can have a mental health issue which is brought on just by a disconnect really with chemicals in their brain, and it's not necessarily brought on by an upsetting thing that's happened in life or some kind of trauma. Obviously, if those things happen, it can make it worse, but there are people who have conditions like that where they've suffered with a depression called endogenous depression, they used to call it. And unfortunately, that's my experience. And what that therefore means is my whole life since my teens, I've have to be aware of the chance of falling into a depressive episode for no apparent reason. And obviously if massive traumas happen in your life, which unfortunately I think we've all experienced some sort of trauma that can bring us down, it can be very common to then fall into a very deep depressive episode. But I think what's most important to say about it, Frankie, and you asked about how I helped myself. Once I became more aware that this was going to be something that I would have to deal with, if you like, because it was going to be a recurring thing, I looked to not only go and help people as soon as I saw, go and ask for help from people, as soon as I saw the signs, but also to reach out to people who knew me to say, please look for the signs too, because I think that's very important and we don't talk about it enough. I think everybody has a responsibility but to be looking out for others. And if you do notice changes in behavior with people, sometimes people who experience depression genuinely don't realize that they've gone into a depression or that they are sinking and needing help and need help with their mental health. So that's what I would like to share really, is that's what I've done. I've reached out to people to pay attention and to notice not only me, but just to be aware of anybody who may show signs of needing support and help. And I think it's just the key here is to say, reach out for help with the condition from professionals, from therapists, and also to have good people around you to support you. Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa. That's great. Thank you so much. Very valuable. Suma? Okay, no Suma. Mira?
I think she got disconnected.
You got disconnected. Right, okay. So I'm just going to touch on, guys, thank you so much for feeding back in your mental health and how you've overcome it. I can relate to everyone, what everybody's actually said here about mental health. Really, really valuable and really important. It's all great information. I'd like to share my experience about mental health. I think for me, my experience of mental health was really loving myself, really loving myself and respecting myself. And then, you know, the fact that I'm black and black British and my colour, you know, brought up a lot of mental health for me. The fact that I was bullied and, you know, was picked on, and then that led to me bullying and picking on others. So that was one of my aspects for me growing up, about how to really deal with mental health. I would say as well, guys, yeah, that mental health is a part of our lives, and it always will be a part of our lives. Mental health can affect us at any given moment. It can be a certain attitude or something in our life, or something what's affected us. It could be bullying. It could be a lack of education. It could be you know, not being able to focus and concentrate. All the kind of symptoms what I experienced. It could be the fact that, you know, you don't feel worthy or you don't feel respect. I do honestly feel, guys, that our parents, as we're younger, can probably add to our mental health. Because the reason why I said that is because I feel that the values what are in life, and they've changed a lot, have really affected our mental health. And even if we can do something wrong or we behave wrong, because we've all been children, we all have to grow up, we all have to learn, we all have to develop, and we make mistakes. And I know my experience when I made mistakes, it was either the strap at school, the slipper on the backside, or the whack of my parents at home. And I honestly feel them values don't help our mental health at all. So as we're growing up, we're learning about a stigma called violence, which doesn't help us at all. And as I've realized that as I've grown up, I've realized how kind of dangerous it is, the fact that we're taught violence from such a young age. So I think basically all the values what we're taught in life are the wrong values, and it affects us as we're getting older and older and older. So the bullying comes in, the lack of education comes in, and the feeling that you're thinking that you're not feeling worthy enough, you know, even to be in school, or not feeling worthy enough that you want to do anything. So I think it's really important, guys, to remember the values have to change in society. And I think they are changing society now, because mental health has come up for the reason that we need to address it and transform it. Me leaving school, I left with a lack of education. I left with a lack of self-worth. And when I wanted to go back into education, I didn't have enough education to do what I wanted to do. So for me to cope with that, I went into a world of drink, and I went into a world of drugs and mixing with the wrong people. So when I talked about loving myself, I was going down the route of not loving myself. So at the time it was fun and everything was great and a good laugh, you know, I enjoyed myself. But as I got older, I seen that my mental health was being affected a lot more. Trying to fit in around people which I didn't fit in around, doing bad habits like drugs and getting into trouble. And it affected my mental health a lot more. And I became a lot more insecure. So basically, being around the right people is really important for your mental health. 11 to 12 years of my life, I wasn't around the right people. So it definitely affected my mental health. To drink can affect the mental health. Drugs can affect your mental health. Yeah. Okay. And a lot of people do this now. Anyone can take drugs and anybody can drink. That's not a problem. We can do things in moderation. But when we start to abuse these habits, it starts to affect our mental health. Even the excess of winning, which I had at one time, can affect your mental health. So when we abuse anything, it will affect our mental health. We have to have that balance of being not too selfish, because we're born in a world where we talk about selfishness is happiness when it's not. It leads to affecting your mental health, and it leads to affecting other people's mental health as well. So as John and like we touched on, our behavior as people is really important, because we can have an effect on other people's mental health. So I'd like to bring up 4 types of mental disorders. What you've all talked about, you've all related to in your life. I'd like to bring them up because these are the 4 disorders what are rampant in our society at the moment. So we're talking about eating disorders. People can eat and crave when they feel a little bit low, depressed, or down, or a bit lonely. You comfort eat, which again can affect our mental health. Personality disorders, not want to be around people, not want to speak to people, want to be in our own, cut off from people who are experiencing that kind of mental health issue. Post-traumatic stress disorder, maybe we've been bullied, maybe we've been abused, sexually, mentally, physically. We all go through them traits in our lives every single day, of that kind of mental health and that abuse that we experience on a daily level. That can lead to mental health. And psychotic disorders, including schizophrenia. So these are the 4 issues of mental health, what I've talked about here, what are running rampant in our society. And we know that the wrong values brings this on into our lives and bring this on into society. So society now is shown as a mental health statistic in the world right now, in our community. How do we deal with it? Can we deal with it? Or is it a case of we've just been brushing these problems underneath the carpet? Now they're surfaced, how do we deal with it? So I'm going to give you some aspects of coping with mental health. How do you feel about these aspects? Music, we talked about music. Opera, listen to opera. I mean, I love music. When I feel like I'm going through an episode of feeling a bit down or depressed, I just put on music. But I have different musics for different attitudes, you know, for different ways I'm feeling at that time. If I'm a bit angry, I may put on a little bit of music where it's a little bit angry, or if I'm feeling a little bit happy, or put on music where it's a little bit happy. So we have different music for different types of how I feel, and it really helps me cope with mental health and deal with all different aspects of mental health. So different types of music for my mental health really helps me. Walking. I know that walking is massive for mental health. When I'm feeling down or struggling, I know walking is a great way to cope with your mental health. I used to walk everywhere, and it's so good to just clear your mind and get out and just walk. Great way for coping with mental health. Exercise as well is great as well, doing a lot of exercise. I do exercise every morning, and exercise is vital for coping with mental health. It's about keeping your mental health focused and, you know, grounded. Getting on a bicycle, doing something different. Sometimes we can do things what we do on a daily basis, just doing something different. It might be like going for a bicycle ride or just doing something different. So bicycle can help with your mental health as well. I think it's really important when talking about mental health to really look after our mental health. So I honestly feel that in life, sometimes we talk the wrong values. Yeah. Another thing as well, which is really important, guys, is to not bottle things up. I know women deal with mental health a lot more different than men. Men tend to bottle things up. What I've noticed, what's caused me a lot of damage in my life, is bottling things up and not being able to speak and communicate with people. The more we can speak and communicate with people, the more we can cope with our mental health. So the more we talk about problems, the more it eases our mental health. Bottling it up can lead to violence, anger, and bad habits like drink or drugs. we need to be in touch with our own emotions. Men are in touch with our own emotions, but we're working on it, guys, aren't we? We're getting better, yeah? We're not in touch with crying and hugging and how you doing, you know, because we taught boys don't cry. We taught we've got to be macho. We taught we're the breadwinners. What a load of BS. It is so damaging. Now I'm older and I've learned to love myself. I can cry and I can be happy that I'm crying. I can hug people. I can kiss people. I can say that I'm feeling down. I don't want. I'm being true to myself and honest to who I am. And that's really important because mental health, we have to live with it. And anything can trigger it at that moment. Yeah. So when we're more in touch with who we are, guys, our femininity. So we're always learning from the women because the women are like a lot ahead of us like that. So when we're in touch with our femininity as guys and who we are, we're going to be able to love ourselves and cope a lot more with mental health in society. Okay. And I feel basically as well, when mental health has come up, we all know about love, we all know about care, but I honestly believe as a spiritual leader, it's about compassion. When I mean compassion, it's about a total love or respect for the person. And we have to spot the signs that people are suffering with mental health. We have to have the compassion to say that I'm going to care for you and look after you. And I think that's what's missing out of society, guys. Compassion is a very powerful virtue and a very powerful quality to have. When we develop compassion in society, the world is going to change. So I feel like the mental health now it's come up is because we need to address it and we need to do something different in our lives, in our families, with our friends and in society. So I feel that's what's missing out of the world, compassion. You really need to be compassionate and spot the signs of people who are suffering with mental health. Okay, guys, so I'd just like to give a quote. Mastering your dark side brings you joy, happiness and success. So we all have a dark side. How do we master it? And I'll give you some tips here. It's being really mindful what we put into our mind and what we project out around other people. It's about our behavior. It's about telling the signs of mental health and how we can help people deal with it and cope with it with ourselves. It's about respecting who we are. It's about respecting the other person as well. And it's about not being ashamed of who we are. It's about being honest and true to say that I need help. One thing I've learned as I've gotten older is to ask for help. As I get older and older, the more I ask for help, the more I know that I can cope and deal with mental health. Go and seek the right person. Could be psychiatrist, might be psychologist, might be a counsellor, might be. Just go out and get as much help and support as you possibly can. And you will see that you'll start to learn something deeply about yourself and be able to cope with mental health issues a lot more easier in spotting the signs. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's more to be honest about how we feel and true to the situation, knowing that it can rear its ugly head and pop up anytime, mental health. But the more we train to deal with it, the more we train to become better people. And when it comes up, you know the signs how to deal with it and take control of our lives. Okay. So basically, what more do I want to say? Yeah, what I'd like to say as well, the Japanese, what I love about Japan, because obviously I'm a spiritual leader, and my spiritual leader comes from Japan, but what I love about the Japanese culture is they're very, very courteous. They're very courteous, they're very respectful of everyone around them. I'm not saying we have to behave like the Japanese, but it's interesting to see if we're courteous to each other and respect our environment, where we live, make sure that we're looking after our place or our area, our communities. Would it be nice to know if you're a bit more courteous? Would that help our mental health? I'm sure it would. So just remember that we're all connected to each other. We all have a responsibility to help each other. Just to be courteous and to be nice and to be mindful of other people can really help our mental health. Just a simple little things like what Stuart said, or like what Michael said, about just having gratitude for just a simple little things can really help our mental health. Just looking in the mirror, smiling at yourself and saying, I love myself every morning, helps your mental health. I'm going to do this today. I'm going to do that today. Just set yourself little tasks every single day, and doing it helps your mental health. Just doing things differently. I honestly believe loving yourself really helps your mental health. Being true to who you are really helps your mental health. And asking for help and a bit of advice really can help your mental health as well. So please, guys, let's always remember to ask for a bit of help and advice and guidance to help our mental health. As a mentor and a coach, I don't know if it can help someone in mental health, but I can always give them the right guidance or the right information where they need to go. So let's just do our bit, and let's just remember that mental health is everyone's responsibility, so we're all looking after each other. Just the simple little things first, and we build on the simple little things. So I'd like to leave that there with you all at the moment. Thank you, guys.
That was amazing. Thank you very much, Frankie. Fantastic, fantastic. Welcome, Chris Burgess. Before we get Chris on the stage, I would like to ask Stuart Bradley, who is with us from Middle East. And Stuart is an expert in the building trade. And now recently he has become a coach. So Stuart, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Maria. Thanks everybody for the opportunity to present to you today. First of all, can I share my screen, please, Maria?
You certainly can, yes.
Okay.
There you are.
Okay, can you see my screen now?
Not yet.
Okay, just 1 second. How about now?
Are you okay? There
Yeah,
it
can
is.
you
We can see it now. Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Okay, so thanks again for the opportunity, everybody, to present today. The topic of the discussion is mental health, and the title of my presentation today is Why Mental Health Matters in Business. So just moving on, before I start the presentation, I just wanted to touch upon the purpose of what I'm going to do today. Yes, I am going to be presenting about mental health, but it's also an opportunity that Maria has given us to promote ourselves to each other, and also to give us the opportunity to promote us to the wider audience through social media. So in doing that, what I would encourage, like we always do, is to, when this recording gets sent out, to share it around, to like it, to comment on it, because that's the way that we are going to raise our profile as individuals, and also as a group. We meet every week and we promote each other from within. Now we need to start promoting each other externally also. So a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Liverpool. As Maria touched upon, I'm a civil engineer and building surveyor by profession. I'm also a project management professional. I've been in the construction industry for over 25 years. In my spare time, I like to referee in the football leagues. And I'm also a yoga instructor. In terms of mental health, I've also taken steps within my career and recently to further my knowledge and awareness of mental health. I've become a mental health first aider. I'm also a health and safety practitioner with the Institution of Occupational Health and Safety. And I'm also the Qatar representative for the Lighthouse Club. This is a worker welfare charity that promotes various initiatives throughout the world. Okay, so in terms of mental health, what is mental health? Well, it's something that everybody has. It's something that includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. And what does that mean? It's how we feel, it's how we relate and interact with others. It's a lot of it is to do with our emotions, emotional health and well-being. Now, as John touched upon and some of the other speakers, mental health is not just negative. There's positive mental health and there's also negative. In terms of positive mental health, if you're comfortable in yourself and the way you are towards others, then generally speaking, this is seen to be that you're in a positive state of mind. But conversely to that, if you are experiencing negative mental health, you're not alone. Some of the research that I did, I found out that over 450 million people worldwide suffer with mental health issues at one time in their life. 1 in 4 people in the UK suffer with mental health at some stage in their life. So with so many people suffering due to, say, modern day activity, in terms of the pressure that we put ourselves under in our careers and our business, mental health awareness has suddenly, become top of the agenda. It's a strapline that's used constantly. It's the new buzzword that people are using. And yes, there is a whole number of resources available to us in terms of helping ourselves and also to improve the well-being of others. And it's not just about your mental health. Related to that is your physical health. I mean, one goes with the other. It's a balance. And in some cases, how you are feeling in your mental health, your physical health, will have an impact on your life expectancy. So these things are very important. So here I've just listed some of the examples of mental health or mental illness, if you like. Now, I'm not going to go through these in any order because I only have so much time today. But these are only some of the classified illnesses regarding mental illness. And as you can see there, it's not all mental. There's some that are physical, self-harming, eating disorders, things like this. It's mental and it's physical. But you may notice that I haven't included a couple of very common emotions in this list or symptoms. I haven't included 2 very common aspects. Can anybody give me some examples of what I may have missed?
You've got them on the picture.
Yes, well spotted, Maria. One of them is certainly anxiety. And the other one that I haven't listed is stress. Now, the reason why I haven't done this is because stress and anxiety, although most people will suffer this at some stage in their life, they're not actually classified as illnesses. They're more an emotional response to a situation or an event that you may either find yourself in or be experienced to. And certainly stress, that can be caused by maybe a work deadline that's approaching, or maybe you've had an argument or a fight, with a loved one, or maybe it's because of a more long-term issue that's affecting you, that you cannot work, maybe due to a chronic illness or something like this. This is some of the things that can bring stress into your life. Some of the symptoms being like irritability, anger, fatigue, muscle pain, digestive problems, difficulty sleeping. I mean, I can go on. There's a whole number of physical things that indicate that you are suffering from stress. Now, in terms of anxiety, it's slightly different, but it does go hand in hand. So anxiety is more to do with persistent or excessive worrying, that you just keep worrying about something and it won't go away. And sometimes it could be even without a cause. You might not even know why you're worrying. It might be in your subconscious, but that worrying feeling will not go away for whatever reason. Now, generally, anxiety, the experts say, results in similar symptoms to what I've listed in terms of stress. And certainly, there is links between stress and anxiety and mental illness. Certainly if you're suffering from these symptoms for on a frequent basis, or they're quite severe, or it's over a sustained period of time, that can obviously lead to further more serious problems. And the reason why I've raised stress and anxiety as part of my presentation today is because I have suffered in my life. I've suffered with stress, way back to as far as I can remember as a teenager. I suffered with stress, and I just thought that it was just something that there's nothing I could do about it. I mentioned earlier I used to exercise and play sport, and that seemed to sort of suppress it or keep a lid on it at times. But really, I never really thought there was a cure for it. Certainly, going into my working life and into the construction industry, which has a reputation for being quite a pressurized environment, having to achieve deadlines, and the construction industry predominantly male, this macho type work environment. People are not encouraged to express their feelings, or to maybe ask for help. It's seen as a sign of weakness. And that leads me on to, I think, Frankie, you mentioned the word stigma. And I certainly feel, in my experience in life, working in the construction industry, that there's a massive stigma towards the likes of stress. Now, yes, we have undoubtedly made a lot of improvements in recent years in terms of awareness and encouraging people to speak out and talk about it and seek help. But the stigma is still there, right? It is still there. you know, okay, we know more about these issues, but these things are still happening on a day-to-day basis. We've only raised the issue. We've still got a long way to go in tackling the issue and making, you know, people's lives better. And I've listed some things there. These are not off the internet as such. These are things that in my experience, in my life, these are some of the things that I've witnessed either to myself or, you know, colleagues. You know, people suffering from stress, they may be perceived to be weak, as I mentioned, have a weak mindset, you know, be inferior to other people because they cannot handle the situation, whatever it may be. You know, people who are stressed, they may be unpredictable in terms of how they behave or some of the things they say. As Frankie mentioned before, we need to look out for these things. If somebody's saying or doing something and it's not normal in terms of their psyche, it's because they've probably got a problem with something. And rather than ridicule the person, we need to help them. Again, people can be seen to have, you know, personality issues if they're suffering from stress. If they're not able to perform certain tasks, they may be deemed to be incompetent. And more often than not with stress, it's a temporary thing, right? So people aren't like this all the time. It's a temporary thing for most people, yet they will get tarred with, you know, with a certain brush in terms of, you know, maybe being lazy or not trustworthy or unreliable. These things, I've seen them happen, and they still exist today. So we still have a long way to go. Now, in terms of stigma, I just thought, for those of you who don't know, in terms of what stigma means, I have a definition here. It is a mark or shame that sets an individual or a group apart. It's a label, a stereotype that can often lead to prejudgment without understanding the person or the facts involved. And I think that summarizes, you know, certainly these list of examples here. Now, I've always used this this slide, you know, presenting to other people or just in my life. The thing about stress is it exists in everybody, and we all need stress. We all need a certain amount of stress to function, whether that's getting out of bed in the morning, whether it's getting the kids ready for school, you know, doing the normal tasks of the day. We all need a certain amount of stress. But obviously in business, at times we want to perform to our best. We want to perform to our optimum, right? So really, we don't want to be in the green zone. The green zone is like, you know, when you're on holiday, kicking your feet up, just chilling out. You don't want to be in the green zone forever because you won't really get that much done. You want to be in the yellow zone, and you want to be pushing that line, you know, towards the orange zone. You want to be at your optimum in certain situations, whether that be, you know, taking part in a sporting event, giving a presentation like today, or giving a speech, a public speech. You want to be on your best performance at that time. But if you see yourself as performing at your optimum all of the time, then you're going to tip yourself over. You're going to tip yourself into the orange zone. You're going to be suffering then from exhaustion. And if you don't take action in terms of the way your body feels or what your mind is telling you at this stage, in order to, you know, give yourself a break, back off a little bit, have a bit of time out, get back into the yellow zone. If you just keep pushing on and pushing on, then you're going to end up in the red zone. That's when you're going to start losing control, having these panic attacks, anxiety, you know, severe stress, and possibly, you know, breakdown and burnout. you know, you're no good to anybody, are you? You're no good to yourself. You're no good to other people when you're in this zone. And this is the time then when you're really going to need serious help, you know, whether it be from the GP or, you know, even more than that. So, you know, this slide to me, it's just a reminder that yes, we do need to perform to our best at times, but also give yourself a bit of time to recover and go again, and recover and go again. So in terms of coping strategies, this is something that I learned on becoming a mental health first aider and doing some courses at the end of last year, earlier this year. This is one of the slides that really hit home to me. It's called the stress container, right? So if you can imagine, you know, your life is a container, is a bucket, right? And you've got all these things filling up that bucket in terms of your stress, you know, what's going on in your relationship, what's happening at work, family issues, have you got financial problems, have you got health issues? All these things are filling up that container. And if you don't have some way of relieving those issues and relieving that stress, that container or that bucket is going to start overflowing. And that's when you're going to start having problems. So one way, or a number of ways to reduce that impact, as we've touched upon with the other speakers, is to maybe do exercise, you know, get some more sleep, do meditation, switch off, you know, switch off from work and have a day off or do something different, just to help you deal with these day-to-day relentless issues that are filling up that container. Now, if you do that, hopefully that will keep the container at a balanced level and it won't start overflowing. But if you don't, and you maybe do some negative things that are either causing it or actually making it worse, you know, if you've got addictions, alcohol, drug abuse, gambling, you know, these are going to add to your stresses. If you're suffering domestic abuse at home with your partner, that's going to add to it. If you isolate yourself and you just keep it within and you don't reach out talk to people, if you don't reach out for help, it's going to magnify the problems. If you're overworking yourself, these are all examples, and you know, only a few examples of what can cause the stress container to overflow. So as you can see, there's positive things that you can do and there's negative things that you can experience here. Now, I hope you can see that, but at the bottom, I've just listed there, I've written there, what is your stress trigger or signature? And again, this is something I just learned recently, right? We will all have a different, so we will all have something different that triggers our stress. It won't be the same thing. Some people call it the stress signature. More often than not, you will get signs. Your body will start telling you, I'm heading into the orange zone, or I'm in the red zone, and you need to do something about it. And I mentioned before about, you know, in terms of my life, I try to have a lifestyle now that sort of focuses on the prevention rather than the cure, because it's only when you start getting these stress triggers that usually you've gone past a point that you shouldn't have gone past. And that's when you then need to do something more radical, if you like, to try and bring you back to where you should be. Okay. So I just want to mention that about when you start to have these feelings, don't bat them away. Don't ignore them. Take it as your body telling you you need to do something. And it might not, as I say, it might not have to be something radical. It might just be that you just take a load off, give yourself a bit of a break, do something different, and that maybe then will bring you back into the green zone. Okay, I thought I would mention the charity that I am involved with, the Lighthouse Club. It is a UK charity. It's been around since 1956. And it's a construction, as I say, it's a worker welfare charity. And it helps people who fall on bad times. But more recently, it's also challenging the issues within the construction industry in terms of mental health. You know, in the construction industry, depression and anxiety, they account for at least 1/5 of all illnesses that occur in construction. 46% of occupational cancer is due to construction-related activities. And most alarmingly for me, every 2 days, in the UK this is, 2 workers take their own lives. Over 700 people a year in the construction industry take their own lives. This is unacceptable. And it's because of the way the industry is and, you know, the issues that people have to deal with, that these things are happening. So the Lighthouse Club, what do? They have a 24/7 construction industry helpline, and I put it there on the right-hand side for the UK and the Republic of Ireland. They're the contact numbers, and anybody can contact them to talk to somebody about any problems that they're having. They do have other initiatives, but the most recent initiative that I only realized actually this last couple of weeks doing the research for this presentation, they've actually brought out an initiative called Help Inside the Hard Hat. And this is a number of things that they're trying to do to raise awareness and provide more support and resources to construction workers. Not least, there's a whole number of free resources that are available through the Lighthouse Club and in affiliation with other parties. They offer free training. There's all kinds of free training to do with mental health awareness. I've done most of them and I would highly recommend it. And as I mentioned earlier, it's a way of helping yourself in doing that. But also you will find that through using these resources, you will then realize how you can help others as well, which is very important for us as coaches. Okay, so just to finish off then, I thought I would do a 1-minute exercise that can help you to calm your mind. This can be done at any time. It can be done on a daily basis. It can be done when you, as I say, when you have that trigger or that stress signature reveals itself to you. This is an example of what you can do, and it only takes a minute. So if I can just ask everybody to, in your mind, to name 5 things that you can see around yourself. Next of all, can you name 4 things that you can hear? Are there 3 things that you can feel or touch? Are there 2 things that you can smell? And finally, Is there one thing that you can taste? And the purpose of this is purely to take your mind off or away from whatever's bothering you. This simple technique, I'm not saying it's going to, it will cure the issue, but this simple technique can help you to certainly distract your mind from the thing that's bothering you. That's the end of my presentation, guys. I've put my contact details there if you wish to contact me. And I'm open for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stuart. We will do the questions at the end. Thank you so much. It was brilliant. So now my proposal is to take a 3-minute break, just so we can stand up and straighten our legs. And we will, after the break, we will have Chris Burgess with his amazing presentation. And I will be the last speaker. So 3 minutes. So we are back at 12:42. Okay. In the meantime, let me share the screen and I put something on from YouTube. Oh, if my computer is going to move. Yeah. You might not hear it. Oh, I've got something ready on my tablet. 1 second. So that will move you a little bit. This is something that I really love to dance to. Okay, guys, are we ready for Chris Burgess? Not yet. Another couple of minutes. Chris, we are very grateful that you have been able to be with us today. I know you are very, very busy at the moment.
Yeah, so hang on.
One more minute and we start, okay? Welcome,
Can you hear me,
Maria?
Maria?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, let's do it.
Right, first of all, the presentation that was given before was one of the best ones I've seen. And I've been doing this for about, well, probably 50 years. Unfortunately, because I'm, you know, a quill pen era, I didn't have a presentation to come. I've got presentations, but I never thought I could put them up on this Zoom. So what I've done, to give a brief background, I'll read it out because I got a bit lost on these things. I've been solving people's emotional problems, physical problems for about roughly 50 years. A study of my work was presented at the world's first international conference on health, mental health, and exceptional human experiences, which it is. I mean, if you're stressed to beggary and there's nobody there to help you, there's all kinds of different techniques they can use. And that was held at Liverpool Hope University on the 7th of September 2009. So if you like, I thought they would have caught up then for all these years, that they would be doing alternative things to fix people, but it's still it's a bit difficult still with mental health. The tendency is they use CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and I've tried everywhere to get figures for the success rate of cognitive, you know, and you can't get it. So that's a bit of a sad, really. And the other one now is mindfulness, which is good because it's a form of hypnosis. As an example, I've got, I'll read them out. I've got a master's diploma in clinical hypnotherapy, an advanced diploma in corporate stress management, an MVQ4 in business counseling, emotional freedom practitioner, EFT practitioner, neuro-linguistic practitioner, NLP, and eye movement desensitization reprocessing, EMDR, and also Qigong I've been doing for years. So what I've found is one size doesn't fit all. So you can use hypnosis for a specific thing that's needed if the person is open to that side of things. Now, a lot of people, they regress and they take them back and back and back and back and back, which is good because one particular, well, many years ago, probably 15 years ago, she had extreme problems and she was a psychotherapist as well, right? Which obviously the psychotherapy people, they have one above them who they tell the tale to every month and then so on to wipe the rubbish out instead of just getting shut of it right away themselves. So I thought the only thing I can do with this young lady is to take her back and back and back stepwise age. So I took her back down till she was a baby in a pram. And I said, okay, what's the thing? I said, I've still got this big black cloud. That was her expression for it. And I said, okay, I said, can you sit up? No. So if she can't sit up as a baby in a pram, she's had this blooming problem right away from the word go. And it turned out it was her mother, but she persistently upset the young lady all through her life. So once she sorted that one out, it was a heck of a lot easier for her. So it's always an individual thing for people. There's no set used to say pull yourself together and behave yourself and all this. That's a load of rubbish. You listen to what the person says, right? Then you find, if you say, for example, using different techniques, I'll explain them in a second for you. And the intention then is to find out the root cause of the person. Right? Doesn't matter what the heck it is. It could be an abuse as a child, say if it was a female or a male. It could be anything. So you find the root cause. Once you find the root cause, you identify the problem. So then you remove that problem by whichever method. I mean, I find Qigong coupled with EMDR is very good. And what you do is in Chinese medicine, you have what they call 3 dantians, energy centers. One here, your thinking brain. One here, your emotional brain, and your gut brain. Now, most people said, I had this gut feeling. Well, they're right. Now, to go back historically, Hippocrates 2,500 years ago said that the major proportion of all ailments or illnesses, that means mental, physical, and everything, is from the gut. Now, doctors have now discovered that this gut that you've got has got synapses and dendrites and everything, just like this brain. And also because they've now operated on people and they can replace the heart, people who've had a heart transplant have had these emotions, and you think, well, where's that come from? Memories, where's that come from? Because this thing's got a memory. So the human body, of course, take it as a big lump of stuff, which is 70% water anyway. So, but all the rest of it, you've got to keep in tune. This is your thinking brain, this is your emotional brain, and this is your gut brain. Now, what happens? The brain thinks that the emotion cuts in, and it loops and it loops, and it makes it worse and worse. So by using Qigong and EMDR, so it's a modern thing, and yet it's an ancient thing as well. You can sort most people's problems out. So what I've done, I've written some stuff out here, which, if you don't mind, I'll read out on the rules of the mind. And I should have put this on, but I couldn't do a presentation like Stuart's done. It was brilliant. I could probably talk it, but I couldn't put it into pictures. But so I'll pinch your thing if I can, Stuart. I'll borrow it from you. It's good, very good. And I'll leave your name on it that you've done this as well, you know, if I ever get round to putting it up. Rules of the law and cause of mind, rules of law of cause and effect. Everything happens for a reason. The word is not random. Everything happens because something else happened. In other words, smack you around the head when you're a kid or whatever. It's called a chaos theory, right? Everything happens for a reason. Your actions have consequences. Whatever state you are in now is a result of choices you made in the past. Whatever you receive in the future will be the results of choices that you make now. Now, the power of you is your choice is made by you. That sounds a bit complicated, but what basically you're saying is that when you got smacked around the head years ago, or you were bullied years ago, and you did nothing about it, that makes you a subject for bullying. I'll talk about bullying. It's a very, very major thing in people having sorts of problems, mental problems, breakdowns, and being admitted to hospital and everything. So how long have we got now?
You've got
Because it's
15 minutes.
15. Oh, yeah, I'll whip through this then. And the rule of the law of physicality. Every thought creates a measurable effect in your body. Some are good and some are bad. If you think about something that scares you, your heart rate will increase and your palms will start sweating. You got a lot of lads with sweaty palms. This is the normal fight or flight reaction. So you can continue that on. If you think about relaxing on the beach with some friends and having a cool drink, your blood pressure will go down, which is what Stuart said, have a holiday, make a break. That curve, I've seen that umpteen times. And that is probably one of they've got all different wordings on how Stuart knows, but that sums it up very, very, very succinctly. Yeah, so I could go on. Every single thought lies somewhere between the extremes of a good one and a bad one. And one of the rules of the mind says that every thought causes some sort of measurable physical reaction if you're not conscious of it. Rule of the law of mind and body. How you think affects your health, which is what Stuart was saying, either for good or for bad. So an emotional induced state tends to cause an immediate physical reaction and organic change if it goes on long enough. Chronic emotional states such as a prolonged anxiety, sadness, anger causes raised levels of stress hormones, cortisol, acetylcholine, adrenaline, etc. So there's a load of stuff that it can bang up from you. You know, your kidneys start pumping away, and your adrenal glands. It consists of level of those change, and it can be permanent or chronic physical damage to your health. So we can actually, if you keep it going long enough, which again is what I'm just repeating what Stuart said, get shut of it, try and bin it, see somebody. Rules or law of visualization. is it okay, Maria, if I send this to you and you can send it out to
Certainly,
people
yes.
afterwards? Yeah, okay, because it's a bit more drawn out. So I'm trying to keep it short, you see. When dealing with your mind, imagination is more powerful than knowledge. That's straightforward. I've seen it thousands and thousands of times. The subconscious mind does not work on strict logic. The subconscious mind is the domain of feelings, images, and imagining. The rule of the mind says that to influence the subconscious, it is necessary to use the tools that the mind responds to naturally. There are primarily 3 subconscious levels: thinking, feeling, and kinesthetic. Kinesthetic is a difficult one sometimes. Touch, feeling, and audio, hearing, visualizing, seeing things, feeling. Kinesthetic, touch, feeling. Audio is hearing, visualizing is seeing pictures. A high percentage of people have visualization as the main operative. So lots of people have got the visual or the kinesthetic or the, so there's roughly about 3. And the audio is another one. People can remember things for years, Rule of expectation. What you think is what you see. In other words, it's your perception. So if you can change your perception, you can change how you are. And that's another one. That's a fairly straightforward one to do when you talk to people. You can talk them through it and see what their perception of a certain thing is, and then give them ways around it. Right. Rule of law of cognitive dissonance. That's a good one, isn't it? A strong idea can change your perceived truth, and resistance is normal. So if, say, for example, you're trying to help people out with something and they've got a set thing in their head like that, it's really powerful. It's very difficult sometimes because the resistance to anything new and taking that away is going to be a bit slow process. 2 opposing ideas cannot be held in the mind at the same time. This is similar to the law of reverse effect, which we'll come to in a minute. The mind will not allow 2 opposite ideas to coexist since they would cause endless conflict. The mind gets around this problem by inventing reasons justifying why one of them is special and an exception. This is normal and is termed rationalization. And you see it now with this sort of, it's like a form of mental induction in different societies. They pump a thing so they get into the same thing. Rule of law of reversed effort. The harder you try, the less you will succeed. Relax, it works. Sure, come up with that. Brilliant. It's finding out to relax is the thing. The law of reversed effort, also known as the law of reverse effect, states that when dealing with the power of the subconscious mind, the greater the conscious effort, the less of the subconscious response. In other words, you can't beat it down if it's in the subconscious mind. You've got to go around a better way. The subconscious mind is there to protect you. That's its primary function. It learns and remembers rules of behavior that prevent you from getting hurt. That's like when you're growing up as a kid. Don't do that and somebody gives you a smack around the head. You remember that more so than anything, which is not nice. These rules and behaviors are created in response to some emotional events. These events have usually occurred in childhood. However, they can occur at any time of life. This can be seen in people suffering post-traumatic stress disorder. I've had quite a few lads who wanted to kill themselves, and you can talk them around it. Law of inertia. The longer you hold a belief, the stronger it gets. It's like the hillbilly feuds. They believed that the people of the road were against them all the time. So that those feuds went on for hundreds of years in America. And it's similar to the natives in one of the Indonesia, but in the jungle, one tribe had a thing about another one. Didn't really get to know them, you see. The rule of the mind is the basis of saying you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's a load of tripe. If the old dog doesn't want to teach, be taught new tricks, it won't. Law of persistence. The more you use an emotional idea, the stronger it becomes. The longer the emotional idea remains, the more opposition there is to replacing it. So if they've had it for, sometimes I get a guy in who's been had a problem for 30 years and upset in the thing because they've been told they'll never get out of it and all this. You can change it once you get down to it. Law of cognitive dissonance. A strong idea can change your perceived truth, and the resistance again is normal. Two opposing ideas can be held in the mind at the same time, cannot be held in the mind at the same time. This is similar to the law of reversed effort. To pick on a particular rationalization, smokers know they are killing themselves, but keep smoking. The mind invents justifications to get around this conflict by defining smoking as helpful socially, such as all my friends smoke. It helps me relax. It helps me think, etc. There's loads of them. Rationalizing the reason for retaining the habit. And that's because I really don't want to give up smoking, but so they're giving all excuses for not doing it. Nicotine is a really addictive substance. Any rationalization of this is nonsense. It is extremely toxic and the levels drop rapidly, so the smoker after an hour needs another fix. So it is a drug. And I think it's about 90% of it's gone after an hour, so they need another pump up. These are all different things for different things, subjects, but I'll send this over to everybody. Law of reversed effort. The harder you try, the less you will succeed. Relax, it works, which comes back to Stuart's idea as well. It's not an idea, it's a fact. The subconscious mind is there to protect you. That's its primary function. It learns and remembers rules of behavior that prevent you from getting hurt. So if once it's got an idea set in it, it doesn't like it shifting. This is going on for another paragraph and so I'll shift over again. The law of reversed effort means that any attempt to change the habit, i.e. the automatic behavior, gets fiercely resisted because that would mean abandoning the rule. When you read all this, you'll get a better sense of it. Rule of the law of inertia. There's that many blooming rules that drive you crackers, which sometimes does with people, of course. Then rule of persistence. The more you use an emotional idea, the stronger it becomes. And that's true. Law of incremental change. Repeating a suggestion makes it more powerful and stronger. As soon as the mind accepts the idea that it needs to reevaluate the automatic response to a situation, then it starts to build new pathways. At first, they are temporary and can get pushed aside. But as the new response is used again and again, the neurological pathways get more firmly established. Now, just to give you an explanation of that, if somebody shows you one thing and you go, yeah, that's new, and the brain's go, beep, beep. So the next time they see it or do it or choose to do it themselves, you go, yeah, I've done this before. And then the third time it goes, oh, I know what that is now, and accepts it. That's a rough analogy of it. So it's not a quick fix on everybody. You've got to slowly take them into it. The law of attraction. This is not actually one of the rules of the mind, but it works. So what the heck? The law of attraction is associated with affirmations. This is used extensively in emotional freedom energy therapy. Many books have been written on the laws of attraction under many different guises. The secrets, that's one, the method, etc., etc. Affirmations work because what you unconsciously believe about yourself is shown in your body language and your speech patterns. So if somebody's Mr. Angry, somebody's upset him to meet Mr. Angry in the past, it could be a number of things. The rules of the mind are emotions true. At first, the laws of the mind might seem mysteriously mystical or be hinting at some great power that rules our behavior, but in fact, they're simple observations of all people's ordinary behavior. The power is in you. And I can go on and on, but that's rough to give it. So I can send that out. There's also one here, which I've done this one for depression, which I can send to somebody because they can help other people with it, you see. Depression and post-traumatic stress, and it's using channel points, which I was saying before here is in Chinese medicine called a third eye, and in yoga and everything. See, the Indians have like a red spot and they paint on here. This is an acupressure point. Now, this is what's called your upper dantian. Dantian means center of energy. Then there's one here where you tap here and CV17, and you tap this one here. So you tap on this 9 times, tap on this 9 times, and then tap on your gut 3 inches below your navel 9 times. And what you do is, I'll just put this down for people who can use it. Encourage the individual to focus on the fear or anxiety involved. It's important that they experience the maximum, emotional charge. In other words, it's on a ratio SUD scale, is from 0 means you haven't got it, 10 means it's really high. So it could be a perceived problem, but that doesn't matter. If they're perceiving that problem, it is a problem to them at that present moment. When they get the maximum, oh yeah, it's a 10 or it's an 8 or whatever it is, you ask the individual to breathe deeply 3 times, and that automatically calms people down while they're still focusing on the specific emotional issue. This allows the individual to have the ability to intensify the energetic charge by drawing it out of the subconscious mind and placing it into the conscious mind. Now the individual can repeat the mantra. Now I'll send this mantra to you. And the mantra is mantras are used for different things, but everything vibrates at a frequency. So if you get an opera singer, they've got a glass, and they can whoa, and the glass will shatter because at that frequency it affects that. Now in Qigong, sound healing sounds, they call them mantras anyway, or healing sounds. So this one is a mantra for getting shut of the rubbish while you're tapping these points. And it's Song, Kong, Tong, Chuyi. Song means relax, and relax, that sound relax people. So Kong opens up to the divine, in other words, opens up to energy. Chong, Chuan Yi, right? And then Bing, which discharges the emotions and disperse the energetic change that supports the emotional issue. So I'll put the pronunciations down here as well for them. If you tap the main points, which is say this point here, upper dantian, right? Or if you like your brain, because it goes into this thing here, and inside it there's all kinds of stuff going on. Your heart here, this channel here, and then your gut 3 inches below your navel. So if you try it yourself if you've got a problem. So if I send this over, you must tap 9 times, because what you're doing is you're impressing that sound into your brain. And when you go into your heart, which is your emotional center, because don't forget, you just brought to mind what you don't want 9 times, and then your gut 3 inches below your navel 9 times. Yeah, but I'll send these out for you if that's okay. So primarily I've been doing this for years and years. The work, I've not really, I was doing a book, that's where that thing comes from, where it was called The Power of Thee, because we're using old words. So this is written down where I was saying you before. It's actually your power. So it's the power of thee. So if it's okay, Maria, I'll send that over. And has anybody got any questions at the moment?
We left the questions after the last speaker, okay?
Okay, that's fine.
I will not take too much.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Chris.
And
thank you, everyone, so far. So I've learned something about anxiety and mental health from the great coach Tony Robbins, and I personally have actually added something which I am really using in my work. And that is the equation event plus reaction equals outcome. Now, Tony Robbins has a name for anxiety and mental health as a whole, and he calls it state break. In other words, in some cases, he basically uses humor to transfer someone from a depression into a positive attitude. But really, if we look at depression comes from the fact that we feel out of our, shall we say, blueprint, because we are all individual. We are all having our own blueprint. Okay, we are programmed individually. But when we get depressed, what we do as the first thing is that we are trying to create strategy to become better. And then once we think of the strategy, we think, okay, we've got the strategy, so let's do our story. So what's my story? And like what happened with me in 1999, I was exactly doing that story. I was creating the story for myself that the reason for taking my own life is because this and that happened. But when I look at it from the perspective of years, yes, the event happened, but where was my reaction? Non-existing. So the outcome, I sat down and I was contemplating to take my own life. So what the state of that majority of people are doing when they are depressed, they create that story, and then the story creates the state. They become really down deep. They go into this deep ditch from which they don't want to come out. But really what should be done is we should be in the first place recognizing the state we found ourselves in and admit that we are in that big hole that is dark and we don't see any way out. Then we need to really look at our story, why it happened, because nothing happens without the reason. And if we allow ourselves to go into that dark hole, who is going to bring us out? Only ourselves. And the way we will bring ourselves is to create a strategy for bringing ourselves out of it. So the strategy could be going to see a psychiatrist, going to see a psychotherapist, going to see a counselor. Although, like Chris Burgess said, I don't really, personally, I don't really think that counseling is a helping thing, but that's my opinion. So basically what we are doing is when we fall into this a state of depression, anxiety, fear, we are doing it all wrong. And that's where that equation comes into: event, reaction, and the outcome. So if we recognize the event and we have the wrong reaction, we've got the wrong outcome. Okay. So really, if you imagine you are down, you are depressed, you don't feel like to because of the weather, maybe someone said something to you, maybe you had a quarrel with somebody and you feel depressed. And then you think, well, what should I do? And I was in that state one day and I decided to call a friend. And the friend said, oh, well, why don't you go and have a drink? So I said, thank you very much for your advice. And I told myself, what is so-and-so telling me to go and drink and fall into even deeper depression? So I turned that down and I just went out for a walk. But if you imagine yourself, if you can try to imagine yourself and the feeling in your body. If, let's say, you go out for a beautiful brisk walk, or go and do beach exercising with John, or go and just have a ride on the bicycle, or even just go and do something that you really enjoy. Your mind switches off completely, isn't it? Your mind turns everything upside down, because the body tells you, wow, I am energized. This is wonderful. This is fantastic feeling. So the strategy can be really easily. And I was watching one video with Tony Robbins when he was speaking to a depressed young guy. And he says, what are you depressed about? And he says, well, I am here in Seattle and the weather is bad and the rain is constantly. And Tony Robbins looked at his shoes and he says, oh, is it because of the red shoes? And the guy was completely taken off his attention. He looked at Tony Robbins and says, with his expression, what are you talking about? And Tony said, well, is it because of your red shoes? You've got red shoes on. And the guy completely went loose, you know, he started laughing and smiling. So we really, we should do this. And I would like to do an exercise with you, okay? Because the key thing is to do a radical change when we are anxious, when we are depressed, when we are feeling down. So one of the exercises that we can do, and I would like you to now close your eyes and take a deep breath through your nose, counting to 5, and release counting to 7. And make sure that your posture is straightened up. Do you feel the rapid change? If you do that for 2 minutes, you will feel a radical change. And would you know that this exercise is even better if you do it standing up? And if you do it just for 2 minutes, you will actually increase the level of testosterone by 20% and drop your cortisol by 22%. And your willingness of taking action, coming out of your depression, your feeling of down, you are increasing by 33%. Just doing that one simple exercise for 2 minutes. So can you imagine? We can all do this, irrespective whether we feel down or we feel elated. We can actually really make a balance in our own perception and our thinking. So if you think about this question, what is there in your life that you are really, really proud of? Just have a think about this. What is there in your life that you are really, really proud of? Just focus on this thing that you are proud of for a minute. Okay, and now close your eyes and focus on the feeling of that pride, how proud you are. Keep that moment in your mind for a little while. And look out how you are breathing at the same time. Can you imagine we are all doing it as children? And when we grow up, we are forgetting about this. So who would like to tell me some feelings whilst doing this exercise? John? Did you feel something?
It's a great exercise. That's a Buteo technique. Breathing in for 5, breathing out for 7, because you're making alive the sympathetic systems, which puts you relaxes everything. That's why your mouth goes moist, because when you're normally under stress or pressure, your mouth goes very dry. So yeah, it's just that total feeling of relaxation the more that you do it. I think that's the thing that I'm overcome by, and I'm more aware of. And it's a technique I often practice when driving as well. Very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Stuart, thank you, John. Stuart?
Yeah, I've done similar techniques recently, and what the experience that I get from it is I actually feel tired after it, but I actually take that as a positive. So if I'm feeling a little bit stressed, or I've got something on my mind's racing, I'm thinking of 101 things, and then I do a bit of meditation. It only needs to be for 5 minutes, as you say, just breathing really. I have noticed a couple of times that I felt really tired afterwards, and this has got to be a sign. This has got to be my body telling me something, right? So am I right in thinking it's a good thing that I'm feeling tired after it?
That is precisely, Stuart, because up to now we have been taught that everything comes from our head, but it is not true, because it's our body first and then our head. So our body tells us the real thing. Our body is giving us the messages. And what you have touched on, relaxation, the purpose of this exercise I did with you was the relaxation, because the other thing, that if we relax and if we remind ourselves of the most beautiful day in our life, something that really, took us up in the air and we felt, wow, this is amazing. Have you had a situation like this in life? I did. And I tell you something, when you feel down and when you close your eyes, control your breath, and you remind yourself of that day, everything goes away. There is no problems anymore. Because when you are grateful for something, when you focus on that, being grateful, or on that happy day, on something that is really exciting for us, we completely change our outcome, don't we? So possibilities of coming out of a situation where we are feeling down, fear, anxiety, depression, we can all come out. And I never forget a statement that was made by a lady called Louise Hay, who said this: if you have brought yourself into depression, you can just as well take yourself out of it. And this might sound very harsh, but I'm speaking from my experience and from my time when I was very, very depressed and wanting to take my life, that it has to be radical. When I was sitting there and that kick came from somewhere, from some unknown force under my chair, and I jumped like being on the spring, I knew that it was a radical change. And the only way that things can improve is by radical change. So really, the equation event plus reaction equals outcome is absolutely relevant here. And the radical change is the only way for us to actually come out of it. And that is all I would like to share with you today. So we have now 10 minutes for questions. So if you can raise your hand, and any questions, please ask.
Just a comment on the last one, Maria. I think I did a talk to this group, where what you do is spot on. You're using the same technique, similar technique, Doesn't matter as long as it works. Brain, and you imagine, right, the actual place you're at, the smells, the tastes, the this, the feels of it, and then you amplify it, then you amplify it again, then you power of 3 again. Then what you do is you drop it from this brain down to your emotional brain and go through the same 3 sequences, you know, you feel, touch, smell, taste, atmosphere, the whole shoot match. And then you do that 3 times and then drop it down so you go 3 times. And people just go, ooh, chill down. So what you just said there, it is extremely effective for people who are really a bag of nerves. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments? Remember, John Bullock is offering 50% of his course. You need to send him an email. And Chris Burgess is doing an amazing courses. Chris, if you could kindly put your website address into the chat so people can take a note of it. Stuart, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks very much to Lisa, Michael, Beat, Suma, and Andrea for joining us today and supporting our presentations. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Can I ask Stuart a question, Maria? Is that okay?
Yes, certainly.
Stuart, you talked about, it's really interesting. You talked about the construction industry and what's actually going on in the construction industry. And I have quite a few close friends who are in the construction industry, and it's just brought it home to me now what you've actually said. Do you believe that the fact that there's a lot of mental health in the construction industry, that it can affect the actual industry, the actual work itself? Have you seen any dangers around that?
Definitely. I mean, if somebody is not of the right mind frame, and they're working on a construction site, they're more likely to either have an accident to themselves or maybe cause an accident with others. There's so many direct and indirect type issues involved here. And, you know, certainly it is commendable that the construction industry is tackling these problems. But as I said in my presentation, there's still a hell of a long way to go. And I'm just a bit concerned actually that, you know, a lot of companies I see, certainly on LinkedIn, and companies that I'm involved with as well, they sort of get on the bandwagon about this mental health awareness, saying how, you know, what they're doing and how they're sort of, you know, we've got all these champions and this is all, you know, and we're really caring and we have a culture of caring and things like that. And I just think there's an element there of them getting on the bandwagon and trying, I'm not saying purposely trying to benefit from it, but really I think, hang on, you may be getting ahead of yourself there in terms of patting yourself on the back in terms of how well you're doing. Action always speaks louder than words to me. And I think there's still a long way to go in the industry. And, you know, yes, maybe in the media and, you know, on LinkedIn and things like that, there is a lot of positive messages, but there's still a hell of a lot of people who are working on construction sites who are not listened to, who are suffering. And, you know, that's where it needs to start from as well as top down. It needs to be bottom up, I think.
Yeah,
I'll second that because from experience, it's like a closed shop with things. You could do a really good job for somebody and you don't want to know because the nice guidelines say this or this, and you can't really get any proof of how effective it is. As an example, you jump on the bandwagon. Mindfulness is hypnosis, but a different name. And the University of Bangor do a mindfulness degree, right? And it's over 3 years and it's £9,000 a term. Now, with all due respect, it does not take you 3 years to learn hypnosis or mindfulness, but that's the way they proceed with it. So you've got this closed shop bit. Then as you say, you've got these industrial guys who talk a bloody good game, and then it's closed again. Same as the people who deal with post-traumatic stress disorders. They've got their set way of doing it, and the charities that do it have got certain people in certain areas, and you don't want to change. It's not like open, come on down and let's see if you can improve it, or give you some ideas to improve it, which you can use. And it's not happening. They're talking a good game, but delivery, it's sadly lacking, because the suicide rates are going up and up. I had a lad knocked on the door. I've seen him a while back. He had a problem, and he wanted to commit suicide. So I said, well, go down the beach. So run him down in the car, and it took about probably, I'd say about half an hour to shift his problem that was there, and then because he wants to kill himself there, so you just talk him around it and shift the bloody thing. So he's been all right. That was about probably about 6 months ago now with that one particular individual. But he was that bad. He'd come and knocked on my bloody door.
Yeah.
And this is the situation it's got. It's sad because the doctors are tableting them up with all kinds of antidepressants, etc. And they'll keep them, they'll see them every 6 months, the psychiatrist, but then they'll increase the tablets and increase the tablets. And the older they get, the more loaded up with the tablets. So something needs to be done, but how you do about it, I don't know.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chris. We'll have Lisa and then John, please.
Thank you, Maria. I appreciate that. I just wanted to mention, after hearing Frankie, a very good question to Stuart there about the how the construction industry are helping to solve the problem within their industry. I think every company now has some kind of body that you can go to like this, which will support you. And I think it's important to let everybody know that they are out there for your own industry. And I've certainly had experience of it, because I'm actually a teacher. I graduated over almost 25 years ago now, and became a qualified teacher. And I had noticed within my industry, although the support is there and you can reach out for it, what you have to still be mindful of is that we still have this difficulty with, although the right things are there in place, there is still a problem within that industry with regard to stigma or attitude, or whether people, the reason I say this is I just want people to help really with the cause of speaking out, because without people speaking out, we can't change it. And what's interesting in teaching is everybody is too scared to speak out and support their fellow colleagues, because in fear of them getting repercussions. And there should be absolutely no fear of any repercussions when it comes to any sort of illness. And sadly, we're not even talking about mental health. We can be talking about other disabilities or other illnesses which can impact your work, which when you got the job, you may not have had. And then they can even bring on a mental health issue for that person if their job or their industry is not supportive of the fact that the situation has changed. And we do have things in place to protect people, disability acts, etc. And that's wonderful, and the mental health protection. But sometimes they just don't work. And the reason I'm saying this is because I'm actually part of a Facebook group which has got thousands of members just in 1 year, absolutely thousands, called Life After Teaching, where teachers are either considering leaving the profession or already have made that change and are trying to encourage others that it's okay to do that there is another job, and that even though you love teaching, you shouldn't feel guilty for leaving the classroom and the situation that could be within the education system as it is. And I just wanted to say, for everybody who's listening, please do speak out. If you see it happening to your colleagues, be the brave one. Be the one that stands up and fights for their rights without fear of repercussion, because if everybody worked together, if everybody supported, there would be this safety in numbers, and people wouldn't have to be affected by this. So thanks for listening. That's it.
Thank you so much, Lisa. That was
Thank you.
brilliant.
Thank you.
John Bullock, please.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, it's just a quick comment. Like, I didn't realize, Chris, when you said that you could actually take a degree now in mindfulness and appreciation.
Oh, yeah. Degree in mindfulness in Bangor University. £9,000. Down there, lad.
It's amazing how in the Western society we have an ability to dilute certain practices, isn't it? You know, and let's just provide a certificate with me for it. I mean, the reality of it, I mean, Chris mentioned things like 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, and how much it was costing. The reality of it is sort of mindfulness, or whether it's not a destination. It is definitely something that you have to practice. And, you know, I'm reminded of something when I talk to different people about the 4 levels of consciousness, and especially when it comes to mindfulness. Which not many of us ascertain with, and I know I have trouble with it, trying to do it. But the 4 levels of consciousness are: to me, where you're a victim and you blame everything for everybody that's happening to me; by me, where you decide to then take responsibility for everything. I'm going to do everything. Through me, which you're not, you try and direct, or if you like, manage things that are happening within your life, so things come through you. But most importantly at the moment, it is as me. So it almost becomes a spiritual journey between the way that you live your life and feeling that what I would often refer to, that autotelic experience where you get that initial feedback. You love that word now, Michael. You're going to take that with you today, aren't you?
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Anyone else would like to add something?
Yeah, I'll just add something then, really.
Yeah.
The majority of, I say the majority, a good proportion of mental illnesses, whichever description, depression, whatever, caused by bullies. Right. Now, I've got a paper, it's only one sheet, and it gives that I did a presentation to one of the universities, donkeys years ago again. And I've used it ever since. I've given it over the phone and it works. And it's 3 methods of losing the fear of bullies. Right. I've also got a little thing on YouTube that there was one young lady in the audience who was being bullied. And it takes about 8 minutes to shift the bully.
If you can send it to me, I will distribute it for you.
Well, and everybody can use it, because as me, I've written it in simple language. That's because I am bloody simple, like, you know. And it's down there, and there's 3 different types of techniques. They work every single blooming time. Take it from me, I've given it to people who are getting bullied that much. There's one particular method you use, and they either start to help you or they disappear, go away. And there was one senior nurse and another senior nurse, and she was the Harridan from hell, the other one. And she said, "What can I do, Chris?" I said, "Do this. She'll either start to help you or she'll go away." So I didn't see her for a few years. Son had a brain hemorrhage, not a brain hemorrhage, he smacked his bloody head. He was in the hospital with his brain problem. So she asked me to sort something out for him progressively. And I said, "By the way, this is about 5 years later, I said, how'd you get on with that nurse who was the Harridan from hell?" It's a major hospital, which won't be named, in Liverpool. And she said, "Oh, she left." I said, "Well, where did she go?" "Australia." So I think that's a good enough sign that it does work. And there was another one to give her the same technique. And 5 days later, she comes to see me and said, "Oh, Chris, I thought you were kidding when you give me that thing, you know." I said, "Oh, yeah, little faith." So she said, now the senior one who was given the problems and her 2 colleagues have now changed and are trying to get her promoted. So it works. So if I send it to you, please use it.
I will distribute it to everyone. Yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic. Michael, please, and then we will end. Michael, can you unmute yourself? Thank you.
Yeah, press the wrong button. Sorry. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for the quick words. I just wanted to say a little example, and I'll try and make it brief, because if you're as tired and hungry as me, you're going to be wanting to head off now. Stuart was saying about in the construction industry, there's a lot of, or in his opinion, a lot of flag waving, if you like, of the concept of now the industry getting together to really deal with mental health and in the workplace. I think that was the gist of it, Stuart. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things Stuart mentioned on that was that tends to be obviously from top level. So from an organisation's point of view, it's kind of, I think, again, in Stuart's words, it's a bandwagon they want to jump on. You can use hundreds of examples of that, like recycling, environmentally friendly, blah, blah, whatever. And nothing is actually happening. It's just something, you know, maybe a sticker or part of the label you want to have on your packaging, whatever it is. A little sort of bottom-up approach that I was just thinking of, reflecting of when Stuart mentioned that, actually, which is, I think it's quite cool, is to be able to try and encourage folks in the workplace to actually make decisions for themselves and take on jobs, deal with jobs in their own way. It might sound a little bit frantic, that, but if you want your outcome, I mean, basic stuff like something we were doing on Friday, just a little job in a warehouse, nothing major, moving some boxes and changing a few things around. If you've got control over where you're putting your pallets and how you're putting them, where you're putting your boxes and who's doing what and who wants to do what, that's the thing, who wants to do what. So everyone feels involved. Everyone feels like they're making a decision. Everyone feels like they're contributing to a successful outcome. Everyone feels happier. Now, as I say, that is basic stuff, but ultimately, where does that get you? That means you leave that day, or, you know, whatever, you pack up, you have it for your tea break, lunch break, and you feel good about yourself. You think, yeah, that was cool. That was cool. I feel happy now. I feel good. So if you can keep that moving forward through the day, you get home, and if you're lucky enough to have a beautiful wife or husband to greet you, they'll say to you, have you had a good day at work, dear? Yeah, actually, yeah, it was really good, thanks. Yeah, we had a good time. You know, we did this, this, and this. I like it there. I like it there. I'll go back, you know, and so on. And so that is a mental health thing, you know. It's a great way of giving yourself a boost, or being given the opportunity to feel like you're getting more for your workplace that makes you calmer and more happy at work. It's got to be better than someone who's got that, again, in the working environment that I'm currently operating. Global logistics is the posh word. It means bugging around in a warehouse, moving things around. They tend to have that stigma of giving people a bollocking. So is that okay? Sorry, that's my second swear word of the day, I think, isn't it? Although they were a couple of hours apart, so probably we were all right with that, were we? The stigma is that there's a boss that will wander around every now and then and say to a few people, oi, hurry up with that, hurry up with that, hurry up with that, and then go back in the office. So the reaction is, oh, hurry up with that. And then you feel stressed. And really, the last thing you want in a warehouse or any environment, really, for example, again, is somebody buzzing around on a forklift truck, not really worrying about the speed limits and that, and thinking, oh, I've got to get this done, got to get this done, got to get this done. What happens next is something else falls over, which means something else has got to be picked up, which means something else is put behind, which is everyone else gets more stressed, because then they're called off a different job to do that job because the boss has said, oi, hurry up. So everyone's sort of, you're firefighting instead of proactively feeling like you're part of a decision-making process to improve and make things better. So you feel like you're being beaten down and not risen up, not rising up to fulfill your own potential. I think that's something that you could do at a bottom-up approach, to engage, if you like, the more sort of hands-on folks who are involved in the working environment, to engage with the company as a whole and also the policy. You can stick a poster up on the wall about it.
We can talk all day about this, Michael, in the construction industry in particular. But we are nearly 1:45, and at 4 o'clock we are having a networking event. So we need a good break.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for supporting us. And our next webinar is on Saturday, 17th of July, which is going to be about self-confidence. Thank you very much. Enjoy the weekend, and I am looking forward to see you, everyone who is going to join our network at 4 o'clock. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for
Bye.
joining. Bye. Bye-bye.